Ever since E3 officially stopped, Xbox keeps winning E3. They're the only real company putting in any effort. They post an image that looks like this, or this, and then they win E3. However, something different happened this year. Xbox put on their regular show featuring an incredible amount of variety. They posted their nearly identical image with this many games. How can you deny this many games? And yet, E3 was not one. Somehow, Sony came in with a B-tier showcase, ended with another freaking Marvel game, and apparently that was enough. They took the whole dang thing. So typically after a big Sony and Microsoft shows, I'd have like a list of hot takeaways. 1 week later today, I feel I really only have one hot takeaway, and that is, you gotta respect your audience. So here, after all of these Summer Game Fest adjacent events have ended, the one thing that stands out, though, I think the only time I really yelped out loud was for Marvel TOCON. But let's go back to a few minutes before that, at the end of this Sony State of Play. And you got to remember, State of Plays are not PlayStation showcases. State of Plays are not meant to be big deals, right? At best, maybe we'll get some fair games at the end of this thing. Towards the end, it turned out to be the third to last trailer. We saw IOI's James Bond game for the first time. And I feel like, at least in the way it's presented in its trailer, more boring than I expected.
She's not your friend, Bond. She's an asset.
With respect, Mom. To hell with that.
That game in particular would have benefited from a more gameplay-oriented trailer. We've already seen James Bond doing cool things and winking at women in live action, and frankly, it works better there. I'd rather see real people wink at each other. So I would recommend in the future for other James Bond trailers, focus more on what a player can do as this character you couldn't do in the movies. Can we drown a human in a toilet?
What'd you see? What'd you see? Tell me what you saw. You didn't see shit.
And then there was almost a Ghost of Yotei trailer that ended abruptly with the promise that there would be a deep dive coming in July. Definitely felt like a State of Play at that point. Here comes the fair games. But then, as we all know now, we're about to be blasted away by TOCON. And I feel like it's a really interesting initial reveal. It happens in 4 phases. Phase 1 is the PlayStation Studios logo. It looks a little different. I don't know, maybe you think that you're about to see some sort of like cute creativity game or something. I don't recognize this hand, so it doesn't count as a stage. Stage 2, Arc System Works logo. Arc System Works only makes fighting games. What's happening here? Stage 3. Captain America's iconic shield. That's his shield. They're talking about vibranium? Marvel Games, yeah, we get that at this point. Leading to Stage 4, the character designs. These two 70-plus-year-old superheroes somehow looking unlike you've ever seen them before, and it immediately works. The trailer immediately bangs. You're watching the game being played. It escalates and escalates with each new character reveal. You don't have a moment to catch your breath. But here's what I thought was really brilliant. After the title reveal, we rewind. Sony explains everything. Concisely, too. You're asking, wait, how did this happen? I guess here, by the way, it's a huge advantage it didn't leak. If the game leaked, they wouldn't need this whole thing, but everybody's wondering, how did this happen? And so they say, we'll tell you.
ちょっと飲んでる中で、実はアークの方でマーベルの格闘ゲームを作ってみないかと。
And as something in particular to tie into this particular video's theme is when they explained the 4v4 fighting game mechanics. And basically tried to assuage any fears you'd have about that.
Learning 4 characters is extremely daunting, but the team at Arc System Works has found a way to design a system that adapts to your playstyle. So you can either duke it out as just the leader and 3 assists, or you can tag in your assists to swap the leader and change the matchup on the fly.
So that's not something you would say to a casual fighting game fan, like me, who doesn't ever learn one character, generally just hits credits, claps my hands, and sets the game down forever. I would say it's probably like 10% of the State of Play audience who that sentence was actually relevant to. However, it's extremely, extremely relevant to the majority of the players who will still be there for this game 3 years after release. And that's what I really loved about this presentation as a whole. The trailer combined with this little mini doc, it seemed to be entirely produced with the audience's reaction first in mind. And now next I want to talk about a particular presentation that wasn't the worst thing of Summer Game Fest, not by any means, but I think a fair illustration of what happens when you don't respect your audience. But let's start back here in 2023 when Xbox ended their showcase with a special focus on Starfield. I think that was two things. One, particularly, Starfield was ultra hyped back at this point, but also Bethesda used to have E3 showcases all of their own.
Because yes, Fallout 76 is entirely online.
So I think they got that whole separate chunk just as a kind of way to keep some of that going. In 2024, aka last year, that bonus game slot was Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Wasn't that kind of, oh, I can't wait till they show this game kind of game, but it's also an enormous game. Turned out to be the best-selling game of 2024, so that made sense. This year, Outer Worlds 2 got that slot. And look, I like Outer Worlds. I'm not here in this video to be mean to Outer Worlds, but you hear it's getting that time slot, right? And you don't think, oh wow, cool that they're finally showing that. It seems unusual. You think that maybe Outer Worlds 2 is either going to be spectacular this time around, or maybe Xbox doesn't have anything else. And it seems like the latter. It seems like they're propping up a game to be their next big title that maybe can't live up to that expectation. Also, incidentally, it has been the first announced $80 game from Microsoft. So maybe they have an extra incentive to make it seem like a really big deal. But after watching the half-hour Outer Worlds 2 special and, the mostly unremarkable trailer that led the show, it's not giving the impression Outer Worlds 2 is gonna be... Like, I don't want to be mean to the game. I don't want to be mean to the people who are working really hard on this game. I just don't think, you know what I mean? I just don't think it's Black Ops, The Outer Worlds 2 Direct itself was strikingly similar to what they did for the Starfield Direct 2 years ago. Right down to the final speeches from before the final montages and final title reveals.
On behalf of all of us, we can't wait for you to play Starfield and make your own special moments.
We hope you all continue to come along with us as we do what we do best, make your world your way.
And obviously ultra rehearsed, sometimes dipping into the Disney Channel voice.
You can be a mad scientist who utilizes gadgets and wacky science weapons and armors.
Just felt really puffed out. Like maybe they're just saying things to fill up space.
You can take maybe the pickpocketing perk, so that's not available to everybody, but if you select that, now you can actually go around and steal things out of people's pockets.
We're all about letting people play the game their way. There are some players who prefer to be immersed in a first-person view, taking in all of the details. But there are others who really prefer to take the world in from a third-person perspective. Why not allow both? Well, now you can swap between the two, letting you enjoy the experience in whatever way you like.
This is my opinion. I feel like the option to have a third-person camera is fairly well understood with the audience watching this thing. There were Ben Schwartz skits, genuinely funny.
What do we got? Flaw.
I like to stare at the sun.
How long did you stare at the sun?
Just lunch break.
An hour?
Oh, I only get 30. You guys get an hour?
I get an hour. I get an hour.
Oh. Makes me feel energized.
How many fingers am I holding up?
3?
No. Anything else? We'll put it in the game. We'll put it in the game because I feel bad for you. Anything else?
But they had this weird contradiction where he's playing this character. He's playing this corporate sleazeball who has bad ideas, but for some reason, all his ideas still end up in the game.
And it just gives everyone cataracts while playing their game. So everything becomes like light shafts and blooms and hazes and makes the game pretty unplayable if you happen to choose that perk.
I don't think they really fully thought out the purpose of that character.
No, yeah. Now that's Microsoft.
So yeah, I'm saying Tokon did it better in less time, which I realize is not controversial. It's not a hot takeaway. Tokon itself is inherently a more exciting video game than Outer Worlds 2, but I think that may also be the reason why Outer Worlds 2 did not need a half-hour presentation, plus 13 more minutes for Grounded 2. Sometimes it is okay just to stop talking. And to be nice to the show itself, I think there were some excellent trailers in there, like for Keeper, like for At Fate's End. But a major highlight for me, I guess as a game demonstration, was the trailer for Clockwork Revolution. 2.5 minutes is typically a long trailer. This one's over 5. But it stays interesting the whole time. It escalates. It shows you character creation and weapon customization and dialogue options without cutting to some poor developer lounging in their office saying, "We thought it would be interesting to give players full control over their dialogue options to really fulfill the conversational power fantasy." No, we get what you're showing us. We understand. Also, yeah, it helps that this game in particular looks extremely nice. Can't say there's really anything like this out there right now. But I truly feel what is so cool about that trailer, and why I'm bringing it up in a video about respecting your audience, is that it seems built, designed for the type of person who would watch a 2-hour video game trailer show. Nobody else is watching, right? Only people who love video games have the patience to watch 2 hours of video game trailers. And so they know they're working from that perspective, from that frame of mind, and they speak to you through that language. And if I may, respect you as an audience member, you did a really good job watching this video. There's a little more after this, but you got through most of it. And Delayed Input will be back in 2 weeks. So until then, thanks for watching. All right, another big reason I think the Xbox showcase fell flat was the reveal of the confusing ROG Xbox Ally and ROG Xbox Ally X. And I feel like this is a more informal video. I feel like it's okay to say this. These buttons look dumb as hell. Cause yeah, I know, that's the ROG font. That's the Republic of Gamers typeface. It's designed to appeal to the basic desires of the kinds of Valorant players who haven't finished their social studies homework yet. I get it. It's not a nice looking product, and it's going to be expensive. And yet, just like I'm just saying, like the visual design of this thing, it looks like a hand-me-down. It looks like what you get when your older brother just got a Switch 2. Here's the thing though, you're rightfully saying it's not about the looks, it's about what's inside. Weird thing is, the only game shown running on this thing is Hollow Knight Silksong. To be fair, later in the show, Phil Spencer shows us he's got Balatro running on that bad boy. But for as much as Sarah Bond insisted that every game we're seeing in the showcase will run on the ROG Xbox Ally, there was no attempt to show off its power. All you need to know is that it has Silksong.
And the highly anticipated Hollow Knight Silksong will be available at launch and in Game Pass when the Ally releases later this year.
And a funny note about that strange sort of ownership of promoting Silksong, as if it's a launch title, the day after that Xbox showcase, Team Cherry had to confirm, just to be clear everyone, our launch has nothing to do with the ROG Xbox Ally. Just makes the announcement itself feel like it was designed to get internet discourse wins as opposed to just communicating the product. It's like they were using Silksong hype to prop up something that doesn't actually seem that special.
For the first time, a player is going to be able to hold the power of the Xbox experience in their hand and take it with them anywhere they want to go.
What are you talking about? This is an Xbox. So from what I can tell, the big difference between a ROG Xbox Ally and a regular old ROG Ally is that on the Xbox One, you can natively play your Xbox PC library, and the handles are bigger.
No, yeah. Now that's Microsoft.